Welcome to Warhammer 40k lore in the Bible, where I pull from Warhammer 40k lore to help explain biblical lore. Today I'm going to be doing a bonus video today for 1,000 subscribers. And I want to thank you guys very much for getting me to that point. This cannot happen without you guys. So again, thank you. Anyways, we're going to be reacting to One Mind Syndicate's terrifying Warhammer 40k stories about orcs. But anyways, I do a lore series, both long format and short format, and I also do reacts. So let's get this started.
In the Warhammer 40k universe, the Orks are the embodiment of anarchy and brutality, striking terror into the hearts of any who encounter them. They are massive, hulking creatures with green skin and snarling faces. They are driven by a singular purpose, a love for violence. And in today's video, we're going to talk about two stories that highlight the brutality of the...
As the saying goes, war never changes.
Greenskins. If you guys enjoy these creepy stories, hit the like button, share with your friends, and we have an entire playlist for the month of October. But let's get into what it's like for an Imperial Guardsman to be captured by the Orks. The dim light of the twin moons filtered weakly through the thick smoke hanging over the battlefield. The night was still, except for the occasional howls of squigs in the distance and the clicking of chains that hung from the twisted metal beams above. Private Darius Lemon, guardsman of the 145th Regiment, sat shackled to a wall pit. He had lost count of how many days he had been a prisoner, though the pain of his wounds told him it hadn't been long. His armor...
Alright, so real quick. So I brought this up many times before, but so of course Genesis 6, you had the giants and all that, the Nephilim, and we're going to see they actually enslaved mankind. You're going to see that here. So chapter 7, or 1st Enoch chapter 7. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. They began to sin against the birds, the beasts, and the reptiles, and the fish, to devour one another's flesh, and to drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. So basically, men couldn't sustain them anymore, so they subjugated them, and then this is where human sacrifice, all that stuff comes from. But anyways.
was gone, his last gun broken and discarded somewhere in the muck. His only company was the foul stink of the cell and the far-off laughter of his orc captors. His hand trembled, not from the cold, but from the weight of the dread settling in his chest. He knew what was coming. He had heard it from the other prisoners who were dragged, kicking and screaming into this pit. None of them ever came back. A loud bang echoed above, and the trap door at the top of the pit creaked open. Darius's heart pounded, and his breath quickened as a pair of Gretchen were thrown into the pit, their wiry bodies scrambling and hissing. They stared at him with beady, hateful eyes. Darius had seen them before.
Real quick, there's something interesting about that. So one Bible translation translate this into goblins, but hold on a second. Okay. So this is the Wycliffe Bible, actually. Psalm 91:6. Okay, let me go to the full chapter here. Or is it going to let me do that? There it is. Okay. So right here. 90, 91, 5 and 6. So thou shalt not dread of the night's dread, of an arrow flying in the day, and thou shalt not fear the terror that is in the night, nor an arrow flying in the day, of a goblin going into darkness, of a sailing, and of a midday fiend, nor the pestilence going into darkness, nor the assailing of the plague at midday. So very interesting. Anyways.
4. orc slaves, too small and weak to fight, but cruel in their own way. The Gretchen chattered in their guttural language, circling him like vultures.
Dem
They weren't here
grots.
to fight. No, they were here to torment him. Darius swallowed hard and pressed his back up against the cold stone wall, his chains rattling. His mind raced as the Gretchen drew closer, their sharp, dirty claws scraping the ground. One of them, bolder than the other, darted towards him and slashed at his legs. He cried out, kicking at the creature, but his chains restrained him. The Gretchen screeched in twisted delight as they slashed again, this time at his arms, nicking his skin with each swipe. "Get away!" Darius weakly shouted, his voice hoarse and desperate. The Gretchen cackled, their voices rising in a mocking crescendo before they retreated just out of reach, as if playing some cruel game. Darius knew this was only the beginning. The orcs above loved to watch their captives suffer before bringing them to judgment. Another noise came from above, louder.
You know what is interesting is you have a lot of people who have sleep problems, we'll just say. I'll just say that. They see these goblins and stuff like that are actually, look kind of like the Oblivion goblins, if you know what I'm talking about. Like that, and kind of like these, the grots. So, anyways, I just thought that was interesting. It's not a Bible verse or anything like that, but it's interesting.
This time, accompanied by the unmistakable grunting of squigs. A foul, bestial odor wafted down into the pit, and Darius's heart sank. Squigs, orc hunting beasts, vicious and hungry. The Gretchen's screeching laughter grew louder as they scattered, making way for the squig. Two bloated, snarling creatures dropped into the pit, their mouths filled with jagged teeth. The squigs moved with a ravenous fury, bounding towards him on their powerful hind legs. Darius tugged at his chains in a panic, but there was no escape. The beast lunged. He twisted, feeling their fangs snap just inches from his arm, then kicked one back as he tried to gnaw at his boot. The other squig jumped, teeth sinking.
Those teeth would hurt right there, man. Ugh. And that jaw, that could probably take out a leg if it wanted to, at least half your leg. Anyways.
Into his side. Darius screamed in pain, feeling the creature tear into his flesh. He slammed his fist into its snout, trying to dislodge it, but the squig only bit harder, its eyes rolling back in a frenzy of bloodlust. The Gretchen cheered, watching the squig tear at their prey with manic glee. Darius felt his strength fading as the blood poured from his wound. His vision swam, and the pit's walls seemed to close in around him. This was it. This is how he would die. Not on the battlefield, fighting for the Emperor, but in a filthy pit torn apart by xenomonsters for their twisted amusement. Suddenly, a booming voice echoed from above, silencing the Gretchen's cackling and sending the squigs skittering back. The trapdoor swung open, and a hulking silhouette appeared at the doorway, outlined by the pale moonlight.
"Oi, what's this here?"
The voice thundered. It was an orc, and not just any orc. A war boss. His massive frame, clad in rusted and blood-streaked armor, filled the entrance of the pit. He leaped down, landing with a thundering crash, sending a shockwave through the pit floor. The squigs and the Gretchen scattered, making way for their leader. It was War Boss Rim. He stomped forward, his glowing red eyes looking into the wounded guardsman. Rim grinned,
And let me go to Ogg real quick. Show you how tall this guy was. So Deuteronomy 3:11 through 13, I believe. Never mind. Let's just do 11. For only king of Bashan, I said that already. Okay, remained of the remnant of the giants. That's the word Raphaim, by the way, and where we get the word orc is Orkneus, which means demon corpse, evil spirit, demon. It can mean goblin and stuff like that. And it's an old English term, and it kind of comes from the Roman god of the underworld, Orcus. So, anyways, for only Og of Bashan remained of the remnant of the giants. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. It is not Rabath of the children of Ammon. 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man. So this would be around 16 to 18 foot tall, or a footbed. So let's say maybe 15 feet tall he was, somewhere around there. 15, 17, depending on, give or take, if you want to say. But very interesting. He was a very tall individual, like these orc war bosses. And there were many of them. You see, anyways,
Feeling a mouthful of jagged metal teeth. His green skin shimmered with the gore of 100 battles, and his massive claw clanked against the ground as he walked.
This Yumi ain't dead yet.
Rim laughed, kicking one of the squigs aside.
Weak gits. Can't even finish a proper kill.
Darius, barely conscious, managed to look up into the war boss's monstrous face. His body was racked with pain, but he couldn't die here. Not like this. Rim crouched down, looming over him, his grin widening.
But don't worry, Yumi. You'll get your judgment soon enough.
The war boss raised his claw high, the metal gleaming in the dim light. Darius's breath caught in his throat, and there was no escape, no prayer that could save him now. With one swift motion, the claw came down. The last thing Darius saw was the cruel, savage grin of war boss Rim before the darkness consumed him.
I want to give you guys a perspective here. So Numbers 13:33. So imagine seeing like this war boss, whatever, type character, or giant, would you say. So in there, we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants. So I'm sorry, this is Numbers 13:33. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. And so we were in their sight. So think of a grasshopper and compared to us. So that's how tall these suckers were. But anyways.
And in the last story we're going to talk about today, let's take a look at the battle of a space marine against a horde of orcs. The hive world of Nostrum Prime had fallen. What was once a beacon of imperial might, a sprawling city stretching towards the stars, was now a desolate tomb of fire and ruin. Towering spires, once monuments to the Emperor's glory, lay broken and crumbling, sagging under the weight of endless bombardments and savage invasions. The air was thick with smoke and ash, blotting out the sun, casting everything in a dim orange twilight. No daylight reached the ground anymore. Just the sickly glow of burning hab blocks and the smoldering remnants of imperial banners.
You gotta have so much faith just to keep going in the Warhammer 40k universe. I mean, you're worked to death for the Emperor, and you gotta give them credit, man. I don't know how long I would last.
Brother Sergeant Elron of the Ultramarines knelt atop the shattered battlements of the governor's palace, battered and bruised. His once pristine armor, the proud blue of Ultramar, was now rent and scarred by countless battles, streaked with grime, blood, and soot. His helmet, long since torn away by a brutal orc blow, lay somewhere below, lost amidst the rubble. His face was drawn, hollowed eyes with exhaustions, covered in blood and sweat. Despite his gene-enhanced biology, even Elron felt the toll of endless war bearing down on him. He was the last. The Vox chatter had gone silent hours ago. The last of the defense network had fallen. Every battle brother, every Imperial guardsman, every honored servant of the Emperor was now dead. His squad, veterans of hundreds of campaigns, had been annihilated. Some cut down by crude axes and jagged choppas, others blown apart by crude but deadly artillery. One by one,
Man, if I saw a choppa, I would definitely take that as a souvenir. 100%, man, and hang that up, or even use it in battle.
their life signals had blinked out on the battle display until only his remained. He couldn't afford to think of them now. Not about Tiberius, cleaved in two as he held the line against a mob of berserker boys. Not about Brother Palon, vaporized in an explosion of green energy from a custom-built gun. Their deaths echoed in his mind, visions that would have brought a lesser man to their knees. But he was an Ultramarine, and there was still a fight to be had. From his perch high atop the palace, Elron could see the devastation brought upon the city below. The sprawling hive, home to trillions of Imperial citizens, was now a ruined wasteland. The streets, once teeming with life, were choked with bodies, some human, others orcs, most indistinguishable beneath layers of filth and blood. Orc warbands surged through the ruins like feral beasts, looting, killing, and smashing anything that still stood. Their guttural war cries echoed through the broken streets. It was a primal sound, feral and savage, a howl of triumph from creatures that existed only to kill. In the distance, a massive silhouette moved through the city, a gargantuan war machine made out of scavenged metal and adorned with crude orc glyphs.
Alright, so, of course, I know I bring this all the time when we talk about the orcs, but I gotta bring it up. Joel 1:6. For a nation has come up upon my land, strong, without number, whose teeth are the teeth of a lion, and have the cheek teeth of a great lion. Very interesting. And that comes from, I'll get to that here in a second.
A stompa. Its lumbering gait shook the ground as it stomped through the city, crashing anything beneath its feet. Smaller machines, trucks, and battle wagons roared in its wake, belching thick plumes of smoke as they carried more orcs into the fray. Elrond gritted his teeth, gripping his bolter tighter. His ammunition was nearly depleted. Only a few precious rounds remained. The cracked grenade hung loosely from his belt, his last bit of ordnance. His chainsword, its blade slick with orc blood, vibrated weakly in his hand, the motor whining, nearly spent from the endless fighting. He had no illusion about survival. There would be no reinforcement, no last-minute miracles. The Imperium had lost this world. But if he was to die, he would die in the Emperor's name, taking as many of these foul Xenos with him as he could. From below, the thundering of footsteps drew closer. Through the haze of smoke and flame, Elrond could make out the shape of a dozen, no hundreds of orcs, swarming towards the palace, howling and bellowing. They were massive, hulking brutes, their skin a sickly green, eyes glowing with an insatiable lust for violence. Some carried crude axes and rusted blades, others dragged alongside ramshackled firearms that spat bullets in all directions, as dangerous to their wielders as they were to their enemy. But they were coming, and they had Elrond in their sights. The largest of them, a beast of a war boss, led the charge. It stood easily twice the height of the others, a grotesque parody of power, clad in makeshift armor made of scrap metal and bone. Its tusks jutted from a monstrous face.
I like the animations behind this. Someone let me know what games or what animations these are from. I want to know. These are pretty good.
And a mechanical claw twice the size of Elrond's torso crackled with unstable energy. It raised the massive chopper high, its voice booming across the battlefield like thunder. Elrond's heart pounded in his chest as the mob drew closer. The palace walls could not hold. They were already crumbling under the relentless barrage, but he would make his stand here. The orc surged forward, a living tide of green flesh and metal. With a grim smile, Elrond raised his bolter. He fired. Each shot was precise, disciplined, and lethal.
So this is where it comes from. A lot of these entities and all that. So this is Jubilees chapter 5, also in Jasher 4, 1st Enoch, and then Genesis 6, of course. And it came to pass when the children of man began to multiply in the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. This is Genesis 6, pulling from it. That the angels of God saw on the certain year of this Jubilee, that they were beautiful to look upon. And they took themselves wives of all whom they chose, and they bare unto them sons, and they were giants. And the lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted its way, alike men, cattle, beasts, and birds, and everything that walks on the earth. All of them corrupted their ways and their orders, and they began to devour each other. And lawlessness increased on the earth, and every imagination of the thoughts of men was thus evil continually. And then God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, and all flesh had corrupted its orders, and all there were upon the earth had wrought all manner of evil before his eyes. That's why the flood happened. This is probably where these ogres and giants and goblins and all of them came from, was all that stuff. Griffins and all kinds of stuff Anyways.
Orc's head exploded in a mist of bone and brain. The second took a round to the chest, its torso obliterated in a shower of gore. But the Orcs did not slow. They never did. For each one that fell, 3 more took its place. Their numbers endless, their hunger for battle insatiable. Elrond fired again, emptying the last of his bolter's magazine into the charging horde. Then, with a snarl, he cast the weapon aside and revved his chainsword, its blade sputtering to life with a harsh whine. He leaped down into the thick of the Orcs, meeting their charge head-on. He fought with the ferociousness of a cornered animal, each swing of his chainsword taking another life. But it wasn't enough. The Orcs were everywhere, an unstoppable tide, their massive, meaty fists battering him, their rusted weapons cut into his armor. Elrond's vision blurred as pain surged through his body, but still he fought on. His chainsword was ripped from his hand, and he was forced to draw his combat knife, plunging it into the throat of an Orc that had lunged at him. Another smashed into him from the side, knocking him to the ground. He rolled, narrowly avoiding a choppa that would have cleaved him in two. The war boss was upon him now, its massive form looming over the fallen space marine. Elrond staggered to his feet, clutching his combat knife, knowing it was hopeless. The war boss grinned, a cruel, toothy smile. Elrond stared up at the beast, unafraid. He tightened his grip on his knife, raised it high, and with a final cry of defiance, charged at the war boss. The massive Orc met the charge with a brutal swing of its power claw. The impact shattered Elrond's chest plate, sending him crashing to the ground, his body broken and bleeding. The last of his strength ebbed away as he laid there, staring up at the burning sky, the sound of Orc laughter and war cries filling his ears. As his vision dimmed, Elrond muttered a prayer to the Emperor.
Can you imagine just the last thing that you see is an Orc? Even like a Orc war boss and just this green tide coming after you, man. Yeehaw.
And then there was silence. And those are just 2 scary stories about Orcs in October. And those are just 2 scary stories about the Orcs in October and during the Halloween season. Like I said in the beginning of the video, we have an entire playlist on scary stories set in the 40k universe, so check that out at the end of this video. Thank you so much for listening. We post Warhammer 40k lore videos every single day, so subscribe and we'll talk tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Alrighty. Well done. Good sir. Anyways, guys, we're going to end it here. I just want to, again, thank you guys for getting me to 1,000 subscribers. Here's to 10K. And I wish there was more I could do for you guys, but I can't, unfortunately. But maybe one day I can. But anyways, if you liked the video, thank you. If you disliked the video, thank you for at least giving me a chance. And if you're looking for a jitterless energy drink, check out W Energy Drinks. They have a Crunchyroll sponsored flavors and all that. And I have a discount link in the description. Every time you use that, you'll be helping out the channel. Alright guys, you have a wonderful day.